You are the reason I exist. The very reason I was born. Hello romance girlies, I'm LadyJenevia, and on my channel I believe in ASIAN Sophie Baek. My patrons have known this for a while now, but I have read Benedict Bridgerton's book, and if anyone so much as breathes the wrong way in Sophie's direction, we're going to have problems.
Nah, yo, hold my poodle. Hold my poodle. Hey, yo, what's up? Y'all got a problem?
Naturally, I wanted to share some of my first thoughts on reading the source material for my favorite Bridgerton in seasons 1 and 2 only. It is truly wild to see how many people have listened to me wax poetic about my capybara.
To honor her being with your deeds and words.
It's poetry!
New shirt from the motherland, and I know it's giving Rorschach. What do you see?
I see a kitten gasping for air.
Am I a person, or am I merely 12 different film references stacked on top of one another while wearing a trench coat? Aren't I a human being?
Don't I deserve love and jewelry?
Also, trousers with the straps. I previously showed you a light gray version of these, but I also got them in black because black goes with everything. A few other updates from me. In case you missed any of them, I have new Bridgerton videos posted about Kate and Anthony's library scene, a deep dive into Francesca Bridgerton's book, and more recently, a video revising Colin and Penelope's relationship timeline on the show as a send-off to Bridgerton Season 3. I guess I'm doing a bit of something for everyone at this point, not to mention my usual roster of film reviews.
We come to this place for magic.
Also, my Queen Charlotte review that is an exclusive to Patreon, access to that has now rolled out to the $5 Cool Writers tier. I post exclusive monthly videos on Patreon, and the Angels tier gets first access, but all paid patrons get early access to sneak peek clips of longer, non-embargoed video projects like this video you're watching right now, as well as immediate access to the preview versions of all Patreon exclusive videos. Of course, I also had to do a video talking about the Sophie Baek casting announcement the day that it was announced, because oh my god, she's East Asian. Why would I prioritize publishing any other videos before that?
It's me!
Before this casting was revealed, I had pointed out more than once how this show has only used East Asians as set dressing in this universe, but now we get to be actual three-dimensional human beings, and I love that for us. We are now joining our South Asian cousins in the We're Getting Married to the Best Bridgertons club.
I love my haters. They make me famous.
By the way, I had a bit of a situation on Twitter after the Sophie casting that led me to this tweet, which reads, with this hilariously goofy picture of Anthony and Benedict, and do you know, dear viewers, what this tweet was quoting? A tweet that read, white guys be like, this is my Asian girlfriend. And when I tell you, I scream laughed at this. I haven't laughed this hard on that app since Irish Twitter and Indian Twitter and African Twitter and Indigenous Twitter were teaming up exactly 2 years ago, September 8th, because something noteworthy had happened. It was in the news. If you know, you know. White guys be like, this is my Asian girlfriend. Truly, I was unprepared for how potent this joke was. The accuracy, the call out, the giggles. And listen, if you're white and you're watching this video and you don't get the joke, just smile and nod. You're not being kicked out of the party. Just be cool. Going into reading an offer from a gentleman, I wasn't sure what sort of coverage I would do because I had no way of knowing what I was going to think of the material and what the material was going to inspire. Having Luke Thompson's Benedict in mind and now having the visual of Yerin Ha as Sophie, every chapter that I read, I found myself overcome with a multitude of thoughts and reactions that ultimately made me realize there is absolutely no way I can put all of this on YouTube all at once. It's too many words. So I have bad news and I have good news. The bad news is that the entertainment industry is in a bit of a disastrous state. That's why it takes 2 years to get 8 overcrowded episodes released to the masses. Episodes filled with too many irrelevant subplots that we as the audience do not care about when we used to get 20-something episodes annually of a show while it was still on the air. But the good news is that 2 years is a lot of time to fill, so I can just drip feed you my opinions about the material through this inexcusably long wait time. There is time for me to be thorough. By the time you watch this video, the next video may very well have been filmed already, so if this video performs well with the audience, perhaps I will post post the next one earlier than my current estimated publishing date. At any given moment, I usually have a rough idea of what my next couple of videos are going to be so that I can plan accordingly. Nonetheless, I wanted to give an overview of opinions as an introduction to the book, particularly for the viewers who have kept up with my Bridgerton coverage, have already read Benedict's book, and want a general idea of where my thoughts currently reside after a first read. Moreover, 2 years is a long duration, so my opinions on the material and how things will be adapted may very well evolve in any number of directions the more that I reflect on that material over the next 2 years.
It's been 84 years.
Before reading An Offer from a Gentleman for the first time, I had a fair few viewers trying to warn me that book Benedict was not as likable as show Benedict. They weren't being too specific with me because I had implored the people, el pueblo, to not spoil things, so I mostly only knew very, very broad spoilers. I had heard people saying that this book was a Cinderella story, that Sophie was working class, and like I said, that book Benedict was unappealing compared to his show counterpart. Now, my first point of feedback is that this book, and more specifically book Benedict, were nowhere near as bad as I was warned. But for context, in case you are someone that only pops into my channel now and then to watch my Bridgerton videos and you do not follow along as I review feature films, I recently covered It Ends With Us. First, I did a video about the source material, and then once the film was out, I did a review of how it had been adapted on film. Let me just say that after reading that book, yeah, none of you should be surprised that, comparatively speaking, book Benedict was not that bad for me to read. Now, I had some notes, of course, things that I would tweak about his material and behavior when making the jump from print to screen, but there were also loads of great moments and character details to work with for an adaptation. Some of you seem to be looking at book Benedict as this hideous, frumpy garment, but I, on the other hand, I see the shimmering potential of what lies beneath.
It's fashion meets
There is a question that often comes up among the folks who have read the Bridgerton books. By the way, I still have not read Eloise, Gregory, or Hyacinth's books, so please don't say any spoilers from those 3. The rest of them are fine. The question that often arises is, which Bridgerton book is your favorite? And now that I've finally read Benedict's book, for different reasons, I find that the ones I like the best are Francesca's and Benedict's, actually. In general, I find that the male love interests of these books have some traits that are less palatable, a bit too angry, a bit too aggressive, and book Benedict does at points have some of those qualities, but it was nowhere to the degree that I had been bracing myself for. At this point, after 3 seasons of the show, it seems quite clear that the people making it clearly understand how to tone down those traits in the male romantic leads when adapting them from book to screen. Any and all issues I've had with seasons 1 through 3 have had nothing to do with the male love interest being too angry or aggressive the way that I had considered them to be in the books from which they were adapted. Michael, Francesca's endgame love interest in her book, was the only male lead love interest that I had read thus far that made me go, no, I have no notes on your anger. Anytime he got angry or aggressive, I was fully on board. My boy Michael was out here throwing hands at misogynists who don't know what consent is. I'm a James Cameron girly, so of course I love righteous violence. So with Francesca's book, there wasn't as much feedback for me to provide of what I would consider to be a whole multitude of necessary alterations for the male love interest. Having said that, though, Benedict Bridgerton's love story in his book is still one that I would rank very highly because, for starters, I love a good meet cute, and Benedict and Sophie's meet cute is so elite, truly S tier, top shelf, islands, diamonds, trips around the world don't mean a thing if I ain't your girl. Right here, right now. Michael and Francesca never really got to have a meet cute in their book. You just jumped into the story with them already knowing each other. Now, it doesn't mean that his yearning wasn't delicious. I'm merely saying a truly great meet cute can rewire a romance girlie's brain chemistry.
I was the one who ran into them in the glasses, so yeah, it really wasn't their fault.
Okay, so you're the klutz. Got it.
The other thing that really catapulted Benedict's book up on my list is Sophie herself. This is not only because she's going to be East Asian on the show, although that is a massive bonus for me. I deeply relate to Sophie. It was very easy for me to emotionally connect with her characterization, and her journey, far more than I did with Francesca's. Francesca's story, understandably, is deeply meaningful to people who have experienced similar things to her, whether it's fertility issues or losing someone you're in love with and not knowing whether or not not you will be able to find love again. I don't want to elaborate on the personal specifics of why I relate to Sophie's story, because this is first and foremost a channel of film and television reviews and analyses and interviews. This is not an oversharing personal life channel. But there were a number of things about Sophie's story, her characterization, and her principles that resonated with me as a reader. This in turn facilitated a stronger connection between me to her as a character and the love story that she had with Benedict. Sophie experiences enormous hardships and mistreatment, but she still makes a considerable effort to be a good person, ethically speaking. And in that sense, I found her to also be an incredibly aspirational lead character. She also has these very strong values that she does not want to compromise, not even for a cute capybara who won't stop flirting with her.
Wow! You are such a big man.
And she is determined to not repeat the cycle of horrors that had been done to her. Despite this being a period piece, I found that this concept of breaking the cycle, it felt like something with tremendous potential to resonate with a modern audience, as long as you do it well, of course. We'll have to wait a while to see if they actually deliver on the potential of the source material, but for now, I can say that the potential is there. I don't have a segue here, so I'm just going to pop in and remind all of you that donation links, as always, for Palestine are in the description box. I figured I could give a brief plot summary. Now, it's not brief in the traditional sense, but it will be brief compared to how thorough I intend on being in more videos to come over the next 2 years, in which I will further probe into this book. I would also like to help ease any confusion to the half of you watching this or any of my upcoming Bridgerton Season 4 videos who only watch the show without reading the source material beforehand. If ever. Meet Sophie Baek. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it because I'm not Korean, but anyway, Sophie Baek, as she is now known henceforth, at least in my mind. Sophie is a bastard, as in a child born out of wedlock. Her father is an earl named Richard Gunningworth. He knows that Sophie is his daughter, and he does keep her in his household, but he doesn't ever bestow upon her the level of love and affection that you would want to see bestowed upon our female lead of a season of Bridgerton. Richard, or as I think of him, Dick, gets married to an evil woman named Araminta. Many viewers have been speculating that Cressida's mother will be the evil stepmother because some people are claiming that they have the same name. I don't know if that's true, but I will simply say that now that I've read the book, I'm going to chime in with the opinion that I loathe this idea because the absolute last thing I want to see on the show is more of the Cowpers.
I hate to break it to you, but I'm gonna.
I want all of them gone. Not to mention, the show has developed this nasty habit of trying to redeem villainous white women and make them sympathetic when the entire reason Bridgerton blew up on Netflix the way that it did in the first place was Mr. Regé-Jean Page.
I'm just a regular guy, and I'm here to show you a good time.
I want a chance at him!
It was romance girlies who went, oh, we get to have BIPOC leads in NSFW Jane Austen? Beam me up, Scotty. You already played in the Asian romance girlies' faces one time by sidelining the Sharma family in what was their season. And if you do not give me East Asian Sophie Baek decking Araminta in the face at the end of her season,
She's queen of 50 states. She's elegance and taste.
if you do not give me that righteous violence when you let a white girl named Daphne Bridgerton have it when she was the main girl of the season.
Let go of me!
This is a smokeless garden.
Disruption.
May the entire continent of Asia and the global Asian diaspora descend upon you. Araminta is abusive and abusers deserve to be punched in the face, among other things.
I just found it.
When Sophie's loser birth father, Dick, dies, he puts a dowry in his will for Sophie, as well as her stepsisters and an inheritance salary for Araminta. That's such a goofy name. I cannot be repeating that over and over again right now or in the many videos to come. I need to give her a different name. Something evil that I despise. What was Mina Suvari's character's name in Beauty Shop? Joanne. I am now calling Sophie's evil stepmother Joanne. It wouldn't exactly be the first evil Joanne to plague the world with her presence now, would it? But LadyJenevia! Rebecca!
You saying your whiny little bitch voice to your computer screen.
Why are you changing her name? That's kind of what we do here. My capybara, Penelope O'Featherington, Mr. No Thoughts Head Empty. It's how I know who's really here and in it to win it. If you can understand what I'm saying 57 references deep, then I will know that you're keeping up. So Joanne doesn't kick Sophie out even though she hates her, because she gets more money from the terms and conditions of the will if she keeps Sophie in the house. However, Sophie gets relegated to house servant duties. But Sophie is a good person with a kind heart. Does having a kind heart make you a good nurse?
Does having a kind heart make you a good nurse?
So the other house servants, they love Sophie, and they decide to play Whitney Houston and get Miss Sophie Baek to the ball, and more specifically, a masquerade ball. Sophie goes to the ball where she and Benedict have the most magical meet cute. It's not just a meet cute. It is a spiritual awakening. It was seismic. The tectonic plates shifted beneath my feet. My soul levitated out of my body. They go off to be alone.
Come in. Take your pants off.
He teaches her to dance. They make out. But Sophie needs to run off by midnight so that she can get back home in time for the carriage to be able to return to the ball to bring Joanne and Sophie's stepsisters, Brittany and Tiffany Wilson.
Brittany and Tiffany Wilson.
No, I'm only joking. I cannot actually call them that because one sister, Rosamond, is evil and blonde.
Scared the bejesus out of me.
And the other one, Posey, is the less favored brunette that gets a redemption arc by the end. So if you've ever seen Ever After, it's the same thing. Posey is Melanie Linsky. Benedict uses a glove that Sophie left behind to play detective, and he ends up visiting the house, but he doesn't actually see Sophie there because she's been locked away.
Not even a servant girl.
Those doors, where did they lead to?
What doors?
Joanne realizes Sophie went to the ball, not only because of Benedict's visit, but she spied Benedict looking at the glove while he was outside right after he left, and then also Sophie had worn a pair of Joanne's shoes and they had gotten a bit scuffed. Calm down, Joanne. She needed to wear them to complete the outfit.
Don't give up on me. You can do this. Suck it in.
So Sophie gets kicked out, and along the way she steals a pair of Joanne's shoe clips because she needs money to survive. There's a time jump of 2 years, and this is noteworthy because it helps to make Benedict remember less of the details of Sophie's appearance. Sophie cut her hair off to sell to a wig maker because she needed money, and she also lost weight from just existing and struggling to survive. Benedict and Sophie are reunited because he goes to attend a party at the house where she is now working, and the son of the household is a predator and has been trying to get with Sophie, and at this party he tries to gang R-word her with some other nasty men.
Flames on the side of my face.
Benedict rescues Sophie before they can enact all their depraved intentions, and then he takes her to a cottage of his. The cottage is called My Cottage. That's the name, the formal name. What in the My Cat type of name is that?
Oh, I don't have a cat. It's a dog. His name's My Cat.
Your dog's name is My Cat?
And Mike Hat.
Your dog's name is Mike, last name Hat.
Well, his full name is Michael Hat.
On the way there, they're riding in an open carriage, and it starts to rain because England. Benedict was already recovering from a cold prior to this, so the weather makes him sick once again, and Sophie does help him to recover. But he also has an elderly couple, the Crabtrees, who live and work at this cottage to help with the labor. Benedict begins to realize he's attracted to Sophie, even though he's spent the last 2 years being haunted by the one that got away, the lady in silver. He makes a move or two on Sophie. She catches him swimming naked in a lake. You really took the Colin Firth 1995 moment and you went, Mr. Darcy, but NSFW. And I don't mind that one bit.
Well, you know, to be fertile.
Benedict wants Sophie to be his mistress, but she says, no, Megan, come back to the bar.
Megan, come back to the bar. No! Megan! Megan! No! Megan!
Sophie does not want to be anyone's mistress, even an adorably swoon-inducing capybara, because her mother was a mistress, and look at how well that turned out. You really want Sophie to just believe you when you say, well, I'll look after you. If we have any children, I'll look after them. What do men do besides lie and weaponize their incompetence? Sir, you are generationally wealthy. You don't even handle your own chamber pot. Get out of my face. Out of my face.
Out of my face. Out of my face.
A brief rewind for context for the half of you who have not read the book. Sophie's father knew that Sophie was being abused, and did nothing to intervene. So, a plague on his house, I bite my thumb at you, sir. I will dig him up and throw the bones into a volcano. It's called being an ally. Benny Boo 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 is upset that Sophie won't be his mistress, but he blackmails her into coming back to London with him so she can have a job in the Bridgerton household. This is super easy to change, by the way. This is what I believe is one of the biggest issues people have with book Benedict. Just have show Benedict offer her a job and have her accept it. It's not that complicated. It's not submersible engineering.
And I know a thing or two about the engineering that goes into subs. I designed and built my own sub.
Benedict might be a grown man, but in actuality, he's a baby with no object permanence. That's why he doesn't understand that these two women whom he has had this deep, profound connection to are the same woman. Remove the contouring and strip lashes, and suddenly a man will not recognize you from one day to the next. Though it is great if you'd like to be a little bit more discreet.
There's only one way to get through undetected. Be invisible.
Sophie gets along incredibly well with the Bridgerton family, or at least the people who are home. Gregory is away at school, and Colin isn't around as much because, traveling. Rich kids got to have a gap year, or more like a gap decade. It's not like Penelope's stuck waiting for you to get your life together and love her the way that she deserves. By the way, sidebar, we see the, and I'm certainly not going to marry Penelope Featherington, scene in this book first. We see it before Colin's book, and not only do we see it, we get to see Benedict roasting Colin for being a dodo who trampled all over the feelings of the woman who's in love with him. Benedict looks at Penelope during that kerfuffle, and he just knows that Penelope is in love with him. He doesn't say that to Colin, though, because he minds his own business and he's not going to make a bad situation worse. Penelope has already been through enough. I already did that Paul and relationship timeline video as a way to close off season 3 so that I can hopefully, preferably, never have to go near that season again, or at the very least put it in a vault for 2 years. But since Benedict's book brought that up, I figured I would mention that tidbit here as well. Sophie gets on really well with the Bridgerton family, even if she is just a servant. The girls embrace her and she's treated with kindness, exactly as she deserves. Sophie and Benedict are still dancing around one another, although Sophie eventually gives in to her feelings for him, and they become intimate?
Intimate? Is that how old people say sex?
Oh, but the first time they do all of that, it's on a couch. And if you don't let ASIAN Sophie have her first time be in a luxurious bed, I will scoff and I will complain, because she deserves a luxurious rich person bed with fluffy pillows and sheets with a high thread count. So what? She's not good enough to be your wife, only your mistress, and now you won't even give it to her in a bed? P.T. Pablo did not deliver the lyric with your feet crammed into the headboard just for you to keep these shenanigans on a couch, Benedict. Benedict assumes that just because he gave it to Sophie one time that she's now accepted his request to be his mistress. The audacity!
The audacity! The unmitigated gall!
So they get into a quarrel. They don't talk for a couple of weeks, but it's now Benedict's turn to be a dodo until he realizes, oops, I'm in love with her. So he's going to go confess his love. But when he reaches Sophie, she is in the middle of playing a game with the children of the household, which includes some cousins of the Bridgertons that are visiting. The game is basically Marco Polo, but on dry land. Sophie is double blindfolded, and once Benedict sees her with a blindfold on, now he can recognize her as the lady in silver from the masquerade ball. So he confronts her, and he's angry like every other annoying male lead from these books, except Michael Sterling, who is absolutely correct every time he's angry. My guy Michael is either punching misogynist or he's going, you hurt my feelings, so leave me alone to wallow. And that's so true of him. You should feel your feelings.
Ferre, Armani, and Versace.
I don't really love this back and forth Benedict and Sophie have in this part of the book. It's very, we're in a tiff, and now we're going to make up, and now all of a sudden we're in a tiff again. It's not the anger being uncharacteristic of show Benedict. It just feels like you need to consolidate things a bit more, especially given how hard season 3 flew off the handle and refused to give the main couple the airtime they deserved as the main characters of that season, just being ridiculously cute and in love. We know the pattern by now. There's going to be a bunch of season 4 airtime thrown away on other things that you don't have time to dilly-dally with Benofi. Don't have them get into a disagreement and then when they're finally reunited, get into a brand new disagreement. I'm just exhausted even thinking about that being the execution of it. We'll flesh out more of those details in future videos, so let me just move on from this irritating part of the story. Sophie is devastated, so she decides to quit her job and tells Violet this. Violet wants to give her some money and let her use one of the Bridgerton carriages to get wherever it is that she would like to go next, but when Sophie goes outside, she is spotted by whomst? Joanne Joanne, who does what? Call the police. The caucasity. Of course she would call the po-po. I skipped over the fact that Sophie had an incident where she spotted Joanne and her stepsisters outside of the Bridgerton house, and there's this recurring subplot where Joanne keeps trying to get a new housemaid to do Sophie's work and be the household punching bag that Sophie was, and other women of the Ton keep getting into feuds with Joanne because she will not only steal housemaids from their household, the housemaids keep coming back to their original households because that's how abusive Joanne is. So help me show, if you make Cressida's mother Sophie's Joanne, and you try to redeem your 37th evil white woman, I will deduct points from my rating. I will do it.
She's afraid that I will tweet an ethnic slur again.
If I can give a bad film an extra star on Letterboxd simply because they used Mystique's Scandalous and Britney Spears' Toxic in the soundtrack, I can most certainly deduct you for caring more about your nefarious villains than you do the Asian women leads of your show. Since Sophie took those shoe clips, Joanne has Sophie arrested. That's fine, Sophie. Ramon Estevez has been arrested dozens of times, and we love him for that. It's a badge of honor to be arrested when you live in the Imperial Court. It means you are living your life correctly. You can ask Auntie Jane about that. So Lady Whistledown publishes the news about Sophie being arrested, although Sophie is not listed by name. At this point, Sophie has shared with Benedict the specifics of her parentage and that Joanne was the one running the nightmare house Sophie grew up in after Dick died. So when you're name-dropping Joanne in the Lady Whistledown newsletter, Benedict can figure things out. He and Violet then go to the jail to get Sophie out of there, and Joanne is already there because, I kid you not, she showed up just to be nasty. Do you know why? Because she's hateful. And not like a fun hateful, like Bianca Del Rio doing a roast. She's the type of hateful where you just want Piacon to jump up and squash her. Joanne was already there when Benedict and Violet showed up. And what does Benedict do? He kisses Sophie through the jail bars after punching the warden so he could get through to see Sophie. Hot.
Teach him a little wax on wax that ass.
Violet tells Joanne she never liked her anyway. Correct. And this whole jail scene, it was microneedling my skin, it was watering my crops, it was giving me everything I needed. Benedict publicly claims Sophie is his fiancée. That's right, Joanne. Go cry about it. You thought your nasty daughter would get the most eligible bachelor in the Ton? You thought wrong.
Not in this house.
Oh, and Joanne is lying here. She's saying that Sophie not only stole the shoe clips, she's also claiming that Sophie stole Joanne's wedding ring. Nobody wants your ugly ring, Joanne, you abusive nightmare. But do you know what happens? A dramatic twist. Posey shows up and declares that she was the one who stole the shoe clips, and that this wedding ring is not actually missing because the ring is at home in Joanne's jewelry box. The magistrate is overwhelmed by this chaotic commotion underway in this jail, so he demands to hear the full story, which Sophie shares. And when she mentions how she wasn't left anything from the will, once again, Posey reveals the truth, which is that Sophie had been left a dowry. So where's the money, Joanne? Oh, suddenly you have nothing to say. That's what I thought.
Oh my God, I'm gonna hang myself by the janimals if you don't stop talking.
Violet points out that it's illegal to embezzle a dowry that does not belong to you. And Violet Bridgerton, she threatens to use the full force of the Bridgerton lawyers if Joanne doesn't corroborate the fabricated story that will allow Sophie to seamlessly transition into high society as Benedict Bridgerton's wife. His wife. That's Mrs. Capybara to you, you leather sofa. Oh, and during this long scene in the jailhouse, there is a point where Benedict grabs Joanne by the throat. And even though I know that they would never push him that far on the show, and I understand why, I am going to need to see Benedict have some true rage in this scene, because it's not just about him defending his lady love. It's going to be symbolic to everyone in the audience that has survived some form of abuse, that someone out there will love you and fight for you to get the justice that you deserve. That is the power that this scene has the potential to have if you actually stick the landing of adapting this this moment on screen. Also, the fact that show Benedict is not a hot-tempered man, that would make him actually showing some rage far more impactful, because it shows exactly how extreme the injustice is that's been done to Sophie and how deeply he feels about her having had to go through all of that. Ladies don't want to be a hot man's mistress. We want torukmakto. You need to be ready to fight for what's right, and that is how you earn our love. Joanne is ready to run off, but Sophie is worried about what's going to happen to Posey now that she has stood up for Sophie against Joanne. So, Sophie asks Violet for help, and Violet invites Posey to come stay at one of the many, many, many Bridgerton houses and start a new life. And get this, when Joanne insults Posey, this is what finally makes Sophie snap. Sophie punches Joanne for not loving her daughters equally, and that is highly symbolic of the upstanding moral fiber and integrity of Sophie Baek. The fact that she went through hell and back and didn't put hands on this woman, but was willing to finally do it to defend another person that was in need, a person who had helped Sophie. Oh, she is the best person I know. ASIAN Sophie Baek, I will ride at dawn for you. If she does not have the most stellar love story, if she does not get to be the main character of her own season, if she is not the priority of this story, I will put on Michael Sheen's Omar Ohid speech and I will storm the castle.
What would you write in there, boys? Dare you write your names on that page?
Benedict takes Sophie back to his place. He bathes her and washes her hair. They have the most absurdly romantic love confession, more intimacy, and they are set to be married in 3 days because Benedict has waited long enough. 2 years of not knowing where his lady in silver was, and 3 seasons of waiting for his turn. Yeah, I'm going to need to see this wedding most expeditiously. Finally, a quick epilogue where after 7 years of marriage, Benedict and Sophie have had 3 sons. Sophie is pregnant again and hopes it will be a girl this time.
We're gonna all get together and we're gonna go
So now I'm going to quickly go through a list of a few of the changes that I would make, some alterations, some tweaks. Some of them I already stated while I was going through the book's material, and I will also share some of the ideas I had while brainstorming about that material. These are not necessarily ideas that I feel they have to do. It was more so just a creative exercise of brainstorming. As long as you let these two be cute and in love with each other, I am not going to be all that picky about the details that facilitate those interactions with one another. First of all, you need to either completely tone down or just completely remove the threat of gang R-word. Every time the Bridgerton universe has done something involving the violation of a person's consent, a person of color's consent, it has made me so viscerally angry, not only because of the subject matter itself, but because of how badly the show has handled that subject matter. You have now lost my trust, and if I want to be worried about the threat of that type of violence against East Asian women, I would just go outside.
Not a joke, just a fact.
Tone down Benedict's temper. I'm assuming this is a given. I'm really not worried about them making this correction because they've done it every season, consistently. So in this regard, I do mostly trust them to get this detail right. I'm not sure what the court of public opinion is about Sophie being working class, but I actually do prefer that she still be a servant in the Bridgerton household, because if you give her a more elevated profession, I feel like she would have to come and go from the house more than I would like. If she's a servant working there, she will be there all the time, which means more opportunities for Benedict and Sophie to interact, and more time for Bridgerton family banter, which was sorely lacking in season 3.
I take it the two of you? No?
Do not look at me. Have you ever visited a farm?
No.
There is every opportunity to course correct the missteps of season 3. Paul and were not given the level of mushy romantic fluff that I wanted to see for them, but we can fix that for season 4. If Sophie lives in the Bridgerton household, just think of all the time Benedict can spend with her. He doesn't even like going out to balls and being thrown into the circus of the marriage mart. We have Cirque du Soleil at home, and her name is Sophie Baek. They could talk about his art. He could have her stop working on chores and just come hang out with me. Paint me like one of your French girls, Monsieur Capybara. I already told you, but I will repeat this. Do the first time in a bed, please. Not on a couch. Or are Asian women not worthy of having romantic entanglements and intimacy in a bed? Let me know what's what. I will call up the Mongolian horse archers. We will ride at dawn. In general, I think Sophie's material is easy to change to resolve the issues some readers have with feeling as though certain exchanges or dynamics between Sophie and Benedict were toxic. All you have to do is tweak things so that the title becomes more accurate. It's an offer from a gentleman. Have Benedict offer a job in the Bridgerton household, and she accepts because she's been kicked out and needs somewhere to go. Have Benedict offer her the chance to be his mistress, and she will decline, and she will explain why, and he can be very understanding about that. It's called communication. Imagine a Pollen season where they actually got to talk to each other instead of overblowing the drama of the Lady Whistledown storyline. Romance girlies just want to watch the leads talk to each other. What are Jane Austen's books but a bunch of conversations? What do Felicity Jones and J.J. Fields do in Northanger Abbey except talk to each other and hang out? The plot is paper thin. We were running purely on vibes and we loved it. Remember when they went out riding and she had this little dirt smudge on her cheek and he just rubs it off and they just look at each other? Don't mind me. I'm just going to go outside, climb a tree, and scream. If he offers her the chance to be his mistress and she declines, and they talk about that, it gives him the chance to learn more about her, what happened to her, what does she value, and it will give him the chance to reflect on things. Does he really believe in these made-up societal rules, many of which he's already demonstrated he dislikes anyway? It creates space for them to truly connect, get to know each other on deeper levels, for her to declare who she is and what she believes in, and space for Benedict to step up to the streets for his lady love. Let Benedict play detective. He has some strong investigative instincts in the book, and I do love a good mystery. The final details I would add is that during their meet cute, Sophie was laughing a lot, and Benedict was really charmed by this, and Luke Thompson is so unbelievably skilled at comedy, so I really want them to utilize that and have him make her laugh, because look at the material. You can be the judge of it. Work with the gift that you've been given. It would also be something really distinct to this couple. Now, all of the couples have had moments of shared laughter, but if you really dial things up to an 11 out of 10, this could be Benofi's thing. He makes her laugh, and I would simply collapse. Another opportunity in the storytelling that this component of laughter facilitates. What if Benedict is hanging out with Sophie and he makes her laugh, and the laughter is familiar to him? It could either be a trigger to him recognizing her, or more likely, and probably more preferable, it would simply be a way of leading him further towards the realization that Sophie is in fact his lady in silver. We need to bring back Benedict the artiste. I reject about 95% of season 3 Benedict because the material was such a nothing burger, and the lack of Benedict as an artist did such a disservice to him as a character. And now, if he can reconnect to his art and Sophie sparks his inspiration and becomes his muse, I have an idea. Hear me out, because I have an idea. What if Benedict draws her or paints her? I'm not particularly picky about the medium, but what if he's creating her image and then something happens where part of her face gets covered, maybe something is put down on top of his sketchbook, or he's putting a cover onto a canvas of his, and the top half of her face gets covered so he can only see this part. And that is how he realizes that she's the lady in silver. I know! I am so powerful. My mind, it amazes me sometimes. We would be getting a combination of Benedict playing detective, Benedict reconnecting to his art, Sophie being his muse, and he wouldn't have to react with all of that unnecessary anger. All we do is win. Or at least that's the energy I'm going to be putting out, because if I decide that season 4 is going to be mid simply because season 3 didn't give me enough fluffy pollen material, it's going to ruin my motivation to creatively brainstorm for all of the season 4 videos I'm planning to make during this hiatus. I don't want that. I'm assuming you don't want that. All I want to see is Benedict and Sophie being cute and in love. I want them to be so sweet with each other that it makes our teeth ache.
What about honor? Romance?
Among other things.